Hi, welcome back to the Truth Doctor Show. My name is Dr. Courtney Tracy. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. And as you can see, if you've been here before, we have a new background. As I continue to progress throughout my pregnancy, I needed more space to be able to move around and be more comfortable. This week, I'm so excited because we are finally tapping into Bridgerton. I have seen 0 Bridgerton episodes and know nothing about the world that many of you have been recently introduced to over the last couple years. We are reacting to Queen Charlotte, episodes 1 and 2. Let's get to it. Beautiful house. What are they, signing her life away? Oh, they probably are. Now, just starting off right away, let's look at that specific behavior. Her finding out that more than likely what's happening, because we know the premise of this show, they are signing away her life, who she's supposed to marry, and what her lineage is going to look like. Some people may perceive that reaction that Queen Charlotte just had as disrespectful, manic, psychotic, inappropriate, out of proportion, violent. In this circumstance, being a human being that is having your life chosen for you is an absolute reason to become destructive. Of course, we want to have boundaries with environmental destruction, self-destruction, other destruction, and it's extremely destructive what she just experienced happening in her life. So much not being said already.
You have not moved an inch in 6 hours.
I am wearing Lyonnais silk encrusted with Indian sapphires, working with overlay of 200-year-old lace. So I give the appearance of a statue, ridiculous to the eye, but that is because I cannot move. And because I must arrive on display, I am forced into a ludicrous gown, so stylish that if I move too much, I might be sliced and stabbed to death by my undergarments.
She's able to see the intention behind why certain things are the way that they are. For example, why she has to wear what it is that she has to wear. But she's also able to see how things could go wrong and how it is still harmful to her and how she's going to follow through with it, but it leads her to feeling restrained and restricted among likely other emotions and feelings and thoughts. And I find this interesting because her reaction to what it is that's going on in her life right now, essentially having an arranged marriage and having her life chosen for her, is a very similar reaction. She's moving forward with it and she understands why she has to do what she has to do. At least she's on her way there to do it now, but she's still very resistant and she still has this understanding that it's possibly not right what's happening. And I just think that we need to keep that in mind.
You are upset, emotional. I understand.
Do you understand? Truly? This I would love to hear, because I'm not upset, nor am I emotional. I am angry and I cannot breathe. Why me? He could have anyone, and yet they came hunting all the way across the continent for me. There is a reason for that.
She is about to have her entire life be turned upside down, and she's trying to, intentionally or unintentionally, she actually might not be trying to, but she is paying attention to all the subtle signs. She's likely in a state of survival and a state of instinctual evolutionary next steps in her brain and in her body. She's very contained, likely in a similar way to the way her outfit is containing her and holding her in this position out of fear. So it makes sense that she is analyzing every possible variable that could give her an indication of what is going on? Why am I chosen? So her ability to take in all of these variables and analyze her environment is a really valuable skill at this point.
I know I should have taken a firmer hand with you when Mama and Papa died. I allowed you to read too much and I indulged your every whim and frivolity. So I take full responsibility for the fact that you are now exceedingly headstrong and mistakenly think you can make decisions. You cannot.
Wow.
There is no good reason. In fact, the reason might be terrible. I know that no one who looks like you or me has ever married one of these people, ever. But I cannot question, because I cannot make an enemy of the most powerful nation on earth.
They're aware of where they are at in their country, in the world, in their society and culture at this time in their life. This brother and sister lost their mother and father. Now the brother is in this position of attempting to further the family and keep it on good terms so that it can advance and again, be safe, secure, stable. That's overwhelming as well. And then taking them both as individuals in this family that are in a certain position, a position that still cannot be achieved by people that look like them, sound like them, talk like them, are related to them, and they are forced to make these choices. For those of us who have a certain amount of privilege based off of where we were born, when we were born, what we look like, sound like, think like, feel like, it matters that we take into context just how many choices human beings have to make because of the privileges that they do not have. And this is such a great example of that.
News? Shut up, Doctor.
Okay, so we're going to go back and forth
He?
in this show.
The king?
So this is
dead?
older
Oh, no.
Queen Charlotte.
No, ma'am. Your husband is quite hearty.
Good to know.
Long live the king.
Doctor, if the king is not dead, who is?
The granddaughter of our dear King George III and Queen Charlotte died in childbirth along with her baby.
So there's a lot of emotional defensiveness on behalf of the Queen.
Teeth? Teeth.
Wow.
That is your job. As many babies as possible for my son.
Yes, Your Highness. Will I be introduced to His Majesty soon? Or...
Oh.
Brimsley?
Just as a human being, to be treated based off of an aspect of your character, your personality, your humanness, your family, your background, and to be treated as though whatever that variable is makes you not matter. It's dismissive, it's disrespectful, it's abusive, it's discriminatory. And the wow comes from seeing the audacity that is capable of being present in the room and have no one explicitly calling it out.
You are always there. Behind me, just all the time?
Whenever you need me, Your Highness.
What is your name?
Brimsley, Your Highness.
Brimsley. Tell me about the king.
He is the king, Your Highness.
Yes.
She is very brown.
I did say she had more blood, Ma'am.
You did not say she would be that brown.
But I did say she had more blood.
Very brown.
It is a problem. People will talk.
People will talk. It is a problem. And the king is the sovereign head of the Church of England and ruler of this great land. Therefore, nothing he does would ever be a problem for the palace.
The butler says he received a letter from the palace.
The palace? The palace?
That is the surprise. You have been invited to the royal wedding.
Coral, have you gone mad?
Is he dull? Not very smart? Mentally slow? I can work on those. You can tell me. Is he cruel?
Imagine standing there in front of that mirror alone. You don't have either of your parents that will be attending your wedding. You have never met the man you are about to marry. Your brother is not in the room consoling you. There are no friends around, no real support people. And she is going to be dressed in something that she doesn't want to be wearing and essentially doing something that she doesn't want to be doing. What would that feel like? And for any of you who have been in that situation, because this does happen, what has come up for you? How has it worked out? If you're there, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. So everyone is still very separated, as you can see. We have white people on one side, black people and people of color on another side.
Lord Danbury.
Lord,
You shall be receiving the official proclamation from the king. You are honored to be Lord and Lady Danbury now.
Also, that other gown, the one that she wanted to wear, or the one that was similar to what she wanted to wear, was so much better.
If you must know, I'm trying to ascertain the best way to climb over the garden wall.
Climb... whatever for?
No one will speak of him, no one. He is clearly a beast or a troll.
Understood. You do not like beasts or trolls? What he looks like matters?
I do not care what he looks like. What I do not like is not knowing.
It's very interesting how so many people that they've shown, so many different characters so far in this episode, in this series, present as though the most important thing is appearance. The most important thing is the color of her skin, is what the dress looks like. It's how far away and behind Brimsley is from her. There are so many aspects of appearances and materialism that are prioritized over actual identity. Even when she is saying, I think that he might be a troll, he interprets what Charlotte is saying as a troll aesthetically, a troll in terms of his appearance, not a troll in terms of not knowing not only what he looks like, but how he behaves. She cares about the character.
You can tell me. Is he cruel?
Of the person that she's going to be with. But you can tell that she cares more about the person than appearance. And that's not only a very valuable characteristic to have, but it's also, again, very different than the majority of people that she's currently surrounded by.
I'm a lady in distress. You refuse to help a lady in distress.
I refuse when that lady in distress is trying to go over a wall so that she does not have to marry me.
He is the king.
I am George.
I am deep, please. Your Majesty.
She bows because he's the king to acknowledge the sense of superiority. And he just grabbed her hand to say, no, come back up, be with me as an equal. And that is so important.
Not Your Majesty.
Not Your Majesty.
George.
Person, human, my name is George.
I mean, yes, Your Majesty, but...
I do not know you.
I do not know
Fair.
you either.
Very
Except
fair.
that you are terrible at climbing a wall.
You try climbing a wall in all of these garments.
And I'm very nervous about marrying a girl I am only just meeting minutes before our wedding. But I cannot show it and climb over a wall because I am the King of Great Britain and Ireland, and that would cause a scandal.
Absolutely beautiful. For those of you who have been on my channel a while, I feel like you can probably expect what I'm going to say. The future Queen Charlotte has been entered into a situation where she is so afraid of not being treated like a human being and not having anyone around her act like a human being. And this alleviation of worry, which we can see in her facial expressions and her general presentation while talking to George, is occurring because he is acting so different and treating her so different than the way that everyone else in his family has been doing so since she arrived. Charlotte had her cheek swiped because the royal white family wanted to make sure that maybe she wasn't as dark as she was appearing because it would be a problem for society. She was not allowed to wear the dress that she wanted to. She was not given any information, even when asking for it, about the man that she's going to marry, being pushed around essentially and not being treated as though she matters, her opinions matter, her feelings matter, her life matters, and who she loves and wants to have children with, her opinion on that matters. So this is very beautiful. And it's two individuals that we're looking at right now who are both bound by very different systems, very different levels of barriers and privilege, and being forced to make decisions that they might not want to make, but they are at least on the same page when it comes to that. And the fact that he's able to open up and say, I'm nervous.
And I'm very nervous about marrying a girl I am only just meeting minutes before our wedding.
Likely will make Charlotte feel a little better because she is very nervous as well. And now she doesn't have to be alone in it.
You have arrived at a most opportune moment. Charlotte was just deciding.
Right, because it's a decision. He wants it to
me.
be a decision for her.
I hope I see you in that.
She put on the dress. Aww. Okay. And that hair, incredible. Two humans stuck in a system, doing it together. Okay. Ah!
Take care, Your Majesty.
Adolphus?
I shall pray that you are soon blessed with children, ma'am.
Be careful, ma'am. And know that if you send for me, I shall come.
What does everyone know that I don't know and that she does not know? Charlotte's brother not saying bye to her is, she had such an appropriate reaction. And it's sad because it seems as though she's immediately gone from being his sister Charlotte to now being Queen Charlotte. And when her brother was standing in front of her, I think she was going for a hug, and instead he treated her like the position. That would feel saddening, especially because it appears that he is her only family member left. And so I'm sure that that's going to be something that sits with her, or something that would sit with her if this was a real situation.
This is our house. George.
It is your house.
It is my house. What do you mean?
This is where you shall live.
It is our wedding night. We are supposed...
Okay,
George?
so he
George?
is stressed about
George,
something.
I cannot keep up. Slow down.
I thought you wanted me in the bedroom. Is that not where I should be?
No.
No?
Not if you're going to behave... George, this is how it is to be. This is our marriage, you there and me here.
Yes.
Why?
I thought it... It is easier.
For whom?
I decide. I have decided I am your king!
Right now, George is acting very different than he was acting before the wedding when he was trying to make Charlotte feel better. Now, let's talk about why people may go from acting and connecting in the ways that they were with another person to then treating them like this, to then treating Charlotte like this. When they were in the garden, he was able to match her understanding of the situation and level her out with compassion and understanding. And he just said in this moment when they're arguing in this new house, I decide.
I decide. I have decided I am your king!
And he said that with such strength. I decide, I am your king. And the thing is that sounds very controlling, right? It sounds like he's not somebody that would reach down and lift her up when she's curtsying so that she doesn't have to come off as inferior to his superiority. Why is there such a disconnect here, and what is going on? I think it can be very easy for people to assume maybe he was just putting on a facade to get to this point. Maybe he's not really how he was acting in the garden. Maybe he's more so how he's acting now. But you can see that there is something that George is either protecting himself from or protecting her from. He switched very quickly into survival mode. So there's something going on that he doesn't know how to express. But the really key point for us to pay attention to here is that there was this powerful struggle that he presented when he said, I decide, I've decided, I am your king. The fact that he gets to make that decision is clearly something that's really important to him, that he gets to make the decision that they're going to live in two different houses. There has to be a reason when people are suffering, when people are struggling, they often want to afford other people in their life the alleviation or prevention of that struggle.
Either way, the choice is entirely up to her.
It's actually why many people become therapists or doctors, because they have personal or familial experience with struggle, with pain, with suffering, from Charlotte's choices being taken away, to George trying to give Charlotte those choices back, to George obviously feeling as though some choices he's not allowed to make in his life. Choices, agency, freedom, and being seen as human beings are likely going to be major themes throughout the next 5 episodes.
Wonderful. We can spend the rest of our lives together.
Are they sober?
I do not know that it would be right for me to say, Your Majesty.
Instead, virgins to the left of me, whores to the right.
I believe I am a married woman.
Yes. And where are your babies? The only heir to the throne is dead. Sorrows. Sorrows, prayers.
Okay, alone on her wedding night.
I should have gone over the wall.
Should have gone over the wall. As alleviating as it was to have George treat her like a human being and allow her to make a decision, that was prior to her already being Queen Charlotte. Now she's in the system and she was exposed to this other side of George that we don't know much about, that she doesn't know anything about, has only spent very minimal time with him, a lot of it which was arranged and scheduled and coordinated. And in the moments where they are able to be alone, one has been really good and another has been really bad. So it makes sense that she's at where she's at in this moment. Now let's head in to episode 2. So as much as this seems like it could be glamorous, beautiful, exciting, it also is where the moment that she wakes up, she is dressed and portrayed as her role. It might be lovely and it might be restricting.
Music? Are there concerts, operas in my engagement diary?
Your Majesty, there is nothing in your engagement diary.
How can there be? There is nothing in my engagement diary. This is my honeymoon.
But she's alone.
Yes, Your Majesty.
The actions one usually takes on one's wedding night have not been taken.
And they haven't?
That would hurt the great experiment.
I mean, there's obviously tension and uncomfortability, but she does seem slightly more calm in this moment, as though she may be settling into the fact that this is her honeymoon, brunch, breakfast, and she's all alone, surrounded by people who are just standing there to serve her. So she's in a position of power, while also potentially feeling powerless, and trying to find the balance between those two positions seems like a really difficult thing to do. And that one of the steps to do that would be radical acceptance. I am here at this moment, and so I might as well take the time to settle in and then figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do. And it's repetitive, meal after meal, alone. Alone but not alone, surrounded by people, yet so lonely. Yes. So incredibly appropriate. And let's talk about why. It did appear as though she was trying to get through the day in the beginning. She appeared to be in some level of acceptance to where she was allowing all of it to happen. However, throughout the course of the day, and our hormones, our chemicals, our moods, our thoughts change and fluctuate throughout the whole day. And the more that she had to go through this experience of sitting at these meals by herself while also being surrounded by people, it's likely going to get to her, and it did. And so by the end of the day, she wanted nothing more than to not be in this system. And part of that system that follows her around and feels so inescapable is Brimsley. I feel like she's also likely left wondering where that aspect of George that she first met went. So when she's reading that book, it's perhaps a book that George had read, and maybe something that could be going through her mind would be, yeah, what is going on? Like, I thought I found someone that I could potentially love, that I made the decision to marry, who gave me the decision. And now I feel like this person that brought me so much joy, and for the majority of this day, my wedding day, is gone, has disappeared. What is going on with this person? Why did I make this decision to end up completely alone?
The passage of time does not always reap benefits, and perhaps good things do not always come to those who wait.
Perhaps it is too late. Our sisters are past childbearing age. We have done our best, and maybe
No.
it is...
Your father and I have provided Great Britain with a great bloodline. It will not end with your generation. This bloodline will continue.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Ready the carriage.
Yes, Your Majesty. May I say our destination?
We are going to see my husband.
Let's do it.
Perhaps this is good.
Perhaps. Perhaps it is bad.
Would you like to step indoors while we wait to find out? Warm up a bit, it is a cool night.
Got that right away. See, this is the
Palace
thing.
is asking for a report.
We can have these systems.
What's she going to tell them? Me?
We
Why
can
should I
have
be the
these
one to tell them
rules.
anything? What is
But
he
we
who
are
refused to
people.
consummate them?
We are human beings. We have needs, personalities, traits, orientations, and the systems can hinder our ability to express them outwardly, but we are who we are. And she's like, what have you been doing? Like, you've been doing this?
I'm getting a glimpse of a planet.
And sleeping here?
George, what have I done wrong? What mistakes did I make?
We are egocentric human beings, and that doesn't mean that we are egotistical. It means that we are the center of our world. We are the creator of our perceptions and our views of ourselves, other people, and the world. This is seen a lot more in young children before they develop sort of the scope and understanding of how human beings in the world function. It's really important for parents, especially, to understand that, because in this circumstance, for example, let's say that we have George and Charlotte, but George is a parent and Charlotte is a child, and George as a parent is completely angry, acting out, let's say throwing things. The child, that would be Charlotte, would feel to blame and feeling like if something's happening in my environment, it must be as a result of something that I've done. Charlotte isn't acting childish here, but it's important because the hierarchical position that George is in comparison to Charlotte, not only as being a man and a woman, being white and black, being the king and the queen, there's a lot of superiority and a significant power differential. So while they're not parent-child and she's not acting childlike, she doesn't have anything else to reference at this point in time other than there must have been something that I have done.
You prefer stars to my company.
I did not say that I prefer stars.
You have been
to
in this room.
Observatory.
They skip past that really quickly in this scene, but I think it's a really key part of the dialogue that we should pay attention to, is that Charlotte assumes something about George's reasoning and George's preferences and priorities, and George briefly says that's not the case. So there's a misunderstanding going on. They know each other enough because they felt each other's energy in the garden, but they don't know each other well enough to really understand what's going on for either of them or for them as a married couple.
Nowhere to go, no one to talk to, and nothing to do.
You're the queen. You can do whatever you like.
Except spend time with my husband.
Come now, Charlotte.
George!
What?
Say something!
I do not want to fight with you.
I want to fight with you. Fight with me. Fight for me.
Go home!
Yes.
Charlotte.
Show me you care. Show me you care.
He went to White's in Mayfair for the first time. The Gentlemen's Club. Apparently, as a titled member of the ton, he has a right to entry, but they refuse to allow him in.
The king has sent you a gift. It is waiting in the foyer. And there is a note, ma'am.
I never want you to feel alone.
That is the gift from the king, Your Majesty.
But what is it?
I think it is a dog, Your Majesty.
I think it is a dog.
No. Dogs are big and majestic. A pincer, a shepherd, a schnauzer, a Dane.
There has to be, like, we have to understand and find the reason why he's limiting his communication with her as much as he is. If he really cares about her, then part of the reason why he's doing this has got to be because he cares, like to protect her from something. But what?
Grimsley said you would be the most discreet because I am on my honeymoon.
Oh, okay. Because she's on her honeymoon.
May I speak freely, Your Majesty?
You are a terrible liar. I did not believe a word you said about your honeymoon.
Right.
Do not try that again in front of society.
This is nice.
It
She
will
needs
cause
someone
scandal.
like this.
Your Majesty, Charlotte, if you did not consummate the marriage, you are not actually married to the king. Your whole position is in danger. Perhaps if it is with someone you like, it is different. I do not know.
Well, I do not like George, so I do not see why we should need to bother ourselves to do this at all.
It is a dog. A very rare and purebred Pomeranian.
You know, it probably does matter to Charlotte that she is able to be in the position that she's in, to be a part of this great experiment. She probably wants to feel like she understands what's going on, that she doesn't have to be alone throughout the journey, and that she has agency and freedom to make her own choices. And that's the struggle that I believe that she's having, is that it doesn't feel that way. Sure, She might be doing something that can benefit so many people if all goes well. And she doesn't need to be so miserable throughout the process of doing so. Lady Danbury is able to understand a lot more of her perspective and where she's coming from, and to help her see it while also just simply being there for her.
It is simple. Find a titled, appropriate young lady, marry her, make babies.
They're still friends.
It is a ritual as old as England itself. Everyone does it. How do you do it?
Do what?
Get them to want to marry.
It helps if they are in love.
Love?
Yes, love.
Besides, marriage is a duty, not a pleasure.
But it can be such a pleasure.
I shall simply find them wives myself, order them to marry, and they can worry about the love part later, after there are royal babies.
That was not quite what I...
Crimson.
The way that Charlotte presented herself when she was young was that she was not for arranged marriage. She was not for forcing somebody to do something that they didn't want to do in their life. And she's assimilated enough into her position and into the role of the system that she plays, that she is now placing the same type of pain and potential suffering onto her children for the system, for society, for their positions, and for the continuation of their lineage. While there are pros and cons and so many different ways to look at this hierarchical structure, it's important to look at Queen Charlotte as a human. Over the course of her life, she has had to fall into this position in one way or another. I'm not quite sure still what the relationship is currently between her and George, as again, I haven't seen prior Bridgerton episodes, but it's important to realize that there was something that happened over the course of these years that shifted Charlotte from the views that she had in that carriage on the way to her wedding day to the views that she has right now when it comes to her royal children.
It is her honeymoon.
It is the new Lady Danbury. I have always liked her. She is not going to tell anyone.
She does not have to tell anyone. The servants talk. The palace already knows she was there.
Well, sir, perhaps it is time you leveled with me. What is wrong with your man?
Fear, anxiety. We need to figure this out or we're going to lose our positions too.
You worry about your own side of the world.
And then we see displacement. Displacement is when we feel a certain emotion, likely an emotion that we would personally identify as negative, and then we place that emotion onto a more appropriate location, person, or thing. So he's frustrated, concerned that he's going to lose his position. He comes and brings that frustration to the king's man, and he sort of takes it out on the dog. He picks up the dog. He does it not necessarily too kindly or compassionately, and just kind of picks up the dog and goes along his way, in a way alleviating a little bit of that frustration or allowing some of that frustrated energy to come out of his body, and not in the most appropriate way.
What does the Dowager Princess want with you?
I do not know.
It is my family that had a relationship with the late king.
Well, that is true.
You are no one.
I am no one.
Dearest,
I am sure it is only because of you and your reputation that they would want to meet with me. I promise to tell you every single detail
Coddling
upon
his
my
ego.
return.
You are being purposely obstructive, Agatha, and I will not have it. Excuse me?
That is my title.
Get it.
The one you were kind enough to bestow
You're
upon
right.
me.
I need a trusted ear.
So does Queen Charlotte.
Do you understand?
We all have needs, Mom.
You want money.
You need to know what is going on over at Buckingham House. We need to be equal members of the ton. We can be grateful to one another.
Brilliant.
Charlotte, where are you going? Where are you going?
I do not know. Just away from you, wherever you are not.
Charlotte! Charlotte! Give me just one evening of your time. Allow me to show you where my mind has been. It might not make you forgive me, but it might make you hate me a little bit less.
Oh my word, what is that?
That is Venus.
Venus? The planet Venus. I am staring at Venus.
You are. In this world we live in, where I'm given so much power and attention, it is good to remember I'm a bit of dust. I'm a small dot in the universe.
That's my stuff.
We could start over. Try again. You are willing?
He always asks her for permission.
That seems...
Unless he's very overwhelmed. But they're here right now in this moment. Both choosing. And that's beautiful.
Might you like a refreshment after your travels?
I would. Thank you.
You know what happens on a wedding night?
Yes, I know everything. I have seen drawings and had a detailed explanation as to what is to occur.
Good for them. And that is the way that her cheek should be touched. And they're very happy too. Let it still be good.
The old days are over.
The old days are
that this is a
over.
new world. That men are men.
You told me to charm her to make it easier for the crown. I have done my best. You told me I could not let her know me because I must protect the secrets of the crown. I have not. You told me to bed her. I have done so. I understand.
That anger, we're seeing it again. We are seeing the anger come out in the discussion about his position in the system. We have his mother coming out and saying,
"Your marriage is the business of this country. This cannot go wrong."
I'm worried that Charlotte is going to take him saying, I bed her because you wanted me to, as I didn't want to do that and I don't want to be with her, even though that may not be true. It's probably going to affect her. And that's really sad because this is the next morning. So now Charlotte is going through this happiness, let down, and it's this pattern of experience. And I don't know if she's going to get burnt out by it. I don't know if she's going to feel like this is the pattern that I need to get used to for the rest of my life.
The Queen is at breakfast in the dining room. If you would like to join her, I can. Shall I send for the doctor, Your Majesty?
No. I'm fine. I do not need him.
Shaking, panting, or hyperventilating.
Yes, yes. Get him here.
In my opinion, I would say that this is either an anxiety attack that he was holding back throughout the whole conversation. The anxiety was increasing and increasing psychologically, mentally, emotionally, physiologically, but he wasn't able to show it. He did show it through some anger. He was able to have some energetic release, but he was withholding. And it seemed as though he was even withholding his true anxiousness and upsetness until he knew she was off of the property.
She is gone.
Your mother has departed, Your Majesty. I saw to it myself.
So again, I think one, this would be an anxiety attack that he was holding in until he had a moment to release it. And I would also say that it might not be an anxiety attack, but it might be him coming out of a dissociative state. Now, this isn't to say that he was dissociating, so he was disoriented from the context of the situation. Basically, what I mean is it doesn't mean he wasn't present. It could mean that he was dissociated from his body. He was dissociated from the defense mechanisms that were continuing to arise. He was detached and compartmentalized all of these feelings. And then once the threat was removed, he was able to touch in more with his body and his brain. So they came flooding back into him the moment that he felt safe. It could be a panic attack, could be a released anxiety attack, could be attaching and coming back to the reality of what he was experiencing in his body. There are also many other things that it could be. What I do know is that as a clinician, it is really important to not take things at face value based off of what you see. So it could really be any of these things. What it does tell us, outside of let's put a label on these symptoms, is that he is experiencing an immense level of distress and anxiety and potentially trauma responses from feeling so trapped in his own body and nervous system with an inability to truly be in control of it. There's a lot going on with Charlotte. There's a lot going on with George, and we are only a third of the way through this series. And what I've also heard is that this is based off of a real historical figure, a real human being. And so I'm probably going to look into it to a degree because now I know, okay, this is supposed to be some presentation of it. So I will have likely more to share with you next week. Thank you so much for following along. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button and the notification bell if you really liked it and you don't want to miss out on any future videos. I will see you next Thursday. And as always, I'm so glad that each and every one of you exists. I hope you enjoyed it.